I was married to Joe for 17 years. We were together for over 20. We have 2 girls together. Joe was the director of security here at South Oaks. Prior to that, he was a New York City police officer. Joe loved being a cop, security guard. He was always the person that everyone went to. He loved helping people and he loved being that person.
My relationship to Joe started out back in the NYPD. Joe and I worked in community affairs in the same office. He interviewed for the director's position here at South Oaks, which he got, and then he called me up and said, hey, why don't you come over and work for me as one of my supervisors? So 12 years staring over the computer screen, 20 years of friendship.
Looking back, I can definitely see earlier signs that we overlooked, that he downplayed. When I had started to notice signs that were getting worse, I kept prompting him to get help. And it would turn into an argument because he would always come back at me, Kat, I'm not crazy, leave me alone, and what is everyone gonna think of me? When it got really bad, he became so fixated on everybody treating him differently or how he was gonna be perceived that he wouldn't go get the help, but he was struggling. His first hospitalization, he had gotten so paranoid. He thought people were out to get him at work. He thought that I was out to get him. He thought he was being followed. And he didn't want to admit that he had something wrong. When we got to the point that he was hospitalized, when he came out, it was his worst nightmare come true because everyone was different and everything was different.
He confided in me and he basically was telling me his struggles were how people changed. A lot of people just changed the way they acted towards him. You know, people that would come in and talk to him all the time, now they weren't there as much. And he noticed that change. He noticed the big difference.
He didn't want to admit to people how much he was struggling, so he tried to keep pushing through it without the support that he needed. He was so paranoid. And all he wanted was to be back to being Joe. He wanted to be the person that everybody knew and everybody wanted to be around. He didn't want to be sick anymore. When
I got the phone call from Karen, Joe wasn't clinically brain dead. You know, the feeling was, very surprised. I've actually had 8 people I've worked with commit suicide. And the one prior to Joe, Joe actually said, I'm too chicken to do something like that. I don't know how he could do something like that. The next thing was the anger, why?
Whenever you lose somebody, everything changes. It's different. If someone dies of a heart attack or something of those natures, everyone reaches out, the phone calls come in and everyone's there. When they hear that someone took their own life, the phone's quiet. People don't know what to say, or they're just judgmental and they're mean. I've told our kids every day since this happened that their dad died of a disease, the same as somebody who dies of cancer. He needed help. He was trying to get it and it didn't work in time. Had all of us done a little bit better and made him realize that he was still the same person, it could have changed everything.
Listen, how I deal with my grief is I try not to forget Joe. So if you walk into the office, the pictures that Joe had hanging up behind his desk, they're all still there. It's a great talking piece. The guys that come into my office, open door policy, they see the pictures, the conversations start, the memories start, the good times. So that's the way I like to deal with it.
Somebody had said to me shortly after his passing is that somebody can die 2 deaths. The first when they stop breathing, the second when you stop talking about them. So we keep Joe alive. We talk about him all the time and different things, and good or bad, but he's always there.
We can really support men like Joe by not being afraid. Go right up to him, speak to him, say to him, what's going on? What can I do to help you? Anything of that nature. Just let him know you're there.
We tend to make a joke of mental illness. Oh, he's gone crazy. Oh, you know what, today was awful. I'm gonna go jump in front of a truck. But it's not a joke. We don't joke about a cancer diagnosis. We shouldn't be joking about this. Every time somebody does something like that, it makes somebody like Joe that much less likely to come forward and admit that he's struggling. We have to make it okay for the biggest guy in the room to say, I need help, I'm not okay. We have to have more resources and more support. There's more strength in saying you need help than hiding it.